Hi, I'm Isabel, founder and firebrand of the Uprising Spark.
Hi, I'm LeNora, creator of The Bitchy Bookkeeper.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm the author of The Age of the Child, and we are the three founding non-mothers of Childfree Girls. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We usually either interview someone or we cover one topic, for a whole episode, but we just kind of want to change it up and talk about a whole bunch of things this episode, which, by the way, is also our first official podcast episode. So yay! We appreciate you listening if you are in fact listening, and thank you. Passing down things, like someone gives you something super special. Usually when people have kids, they'll give it to their oldest. For some reason, the oldest always gets everything good. But, money, inheritance, heirlooms, your favorite book. I think one of the fun things about having a kid would be introducing them to things and giving them stuff. And we don't have those. We don't have that ability. So where do you put your stuff? What do you do with it?
Well, I'm waiting to have nephews for that. I hope my sister doesn't listen to this. You don't have to have kids, sister, but she's always been very vocal about the fact that she wants to be a mom. So if she eventually becomes a mom, I'll probably leave all my stuff to my nieces or nephews, But, it's interesting because there is a very prominent couple who lived in my hometown. They had a ton of money and they had no children. I don't think it was by choice. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. They just didn't have children. But they did have like an extended family. But in the end, all of their stuff was left to the city. So they donated like a huge estate that is now owned by one of our contemporary art museum. So it's now holding some space for some collections of art. They donated their money to the city. Like they wanted to put it into cultural things. I think that's a great idea. I mean, in the end, in my case, if I don't have nephews or nieces or they're just little shits, I don't want to leave my stuff to them. Then I think I would just leave a will or something donating my stuff to one of these causes, maybe a cultural cause, maybe, I don't know, some association that helps women who are in poverty and, women who didn't really have a choice, who became mothers because they were raped or because they just thought it was the way to do it. And one of the causes that I believe in, or an animal cause also. So I think I would probably do that with my wealth, whatever is left of it, if something is left of it. I would probably try to give away stuff that I really like or care about before. If I don't want to donate it for whatever reason, it's always, I would like it to serve a higher purpose, basically. That's in a nutshell.
I'll piggyback off of what Isabel said, because my first thought is we can't assume that people or specific people in our lives are going to care about the things we leave behind if it's not money. As someone who has inherited money, I've inherited a china set that I appreciate now in my 30s, like that's from my grandma, but my two nephews are not going to care about it, right? So I would like to see certain things being distributed, or even if I can't say a specific person's going to get it, I would like the universe, because I believe that's how it works, it would end up it would end up somewhere that it would be appreciated, even if they did not know the origin of it. Thinking specifically of the china set. My nephews would be like, yes, give us the money, that's fine. My violin. Nobody in my family is interested in playing the violin. I'm not even interested in playing the violin, but it's worth something, and eventually it would just go somewhere where it would be appreciated. I don't know the origin of the instrument. It wasn't handed to me. I bought it when I was 15. So, there's a lot of romanticizing on, oh, my great-great-great-grand person is going to get this and enjoy it. And they'll be like, I don't even know who my great-great-great-grandmother or father was. So I would like to see whether it's something I've created, a physical object or money being I would like to see it also be used for a higher purpose, and I don't have any control on where it's going to land. But there is one thing that meant something to me to pass on, and my mother had this pizza recipe that she got out of some recipe book, or just the way she created it, it was not passed down to her. She just had this thing, and every Friday growing up, we would have pizza. And that was one of the few things my mother actually made that I really liked, because she wasn't like she was a good baker, but she wasn't like a cook, even though she was stay-at-home mom, but she was a very bland cooker. Sorry, Mom. But anyway, so after she died, I started making pizza for my dad and my brother, and I've made it for friends over the years and stuff. And that was like the one thing I thought, oh, it would be nice to somehow teach it to somebody who would appreciate it. And actually a few years ago, and I wrote a blog about this because it got me thinking, well, how would I pass this pizza recipe on? So I put it on my blog and shared this story I'm going to share and put it out for my readers to eventually if they want to make it. But anyway, there's these two girls that my mom and I used to babysit, and they're also two of my best friends. And a few summers ago, I went up and visited them because they were sharing a house together, these two sisters, and I taught the youngest how to make this pizza recipe, because she always used to help my mother make this recipe when she was a little girl. So she had all these memories of my mother, and that was like one of the things she remembers. So I taught her how to do it. We spent a whole weekend making pizzas, and she still makes it. She'll make it for her sister, and when I go up and visit, I'll make them mom's pizza. But now I've taught somebody else how to make it who remembers my mother, who has that memory. And I'm like, see, because my nephews, they were born after my mom died, so they don't know her, and they've had the pizza, but, doesn't mean anything to them. So for me to be able to teach someone who knew that history had memories, that was cool. And if she teaches it, if eventually she has kids or whoever, that can pass on that way. So that was the one thing that I would have liked seeing passed down. I was able to do it, and it's great. It makes me happy to think about it, and I know she's still making mom's pizza, so hey, that's my happy pass it on story.
And is this the famous pizza that's in Comfort Food for Thought?
Yes, it is. Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, I shared it in her book. So it's on the blog, it's in our book. So the whole entire world can know how to make this pizza now. So, see, I don't have kids. I'm not going to have kids. But now, millions of people can learn how to make this pizza.
For only $1.99 on Kindle.
Yeah. Hello. Priceless, people.
Childfree Girls, Comfort Food for Thought. Get it on Amazon. I don't have... both of you have, I can kind of, I guess, piggyback on both of your things. I don't have a lot of things special to me that I would want to hand down, but my dad always insisted that he liked the idea of his daughters wearing pearls. He just liked pearls, I think, because of his time period. He just thought they were a classy necklace. He bought his wife, not my mother, but a different wife, a string of pearls. And at one point when I was an older teenager or something, he bought me a set. And I just couldn't, they weren't me. I'm not a pearls girl. I'm not fancy. I don't, and so I just had them forever. And I thought it was such a shame to have this set of pearls, or this pearl necklace, and never wear it and just keep it kind of wound up in a little coil in a jewelry box. And I don't know that my friend's daughter will ever wear pearls. She has a really unique style. She has a really strong sense of self. And so she might someday find something she wants to wear the most. She might not. But I gave them to her since she's the closest thing I have to a niece, because my sister doesn't have kids either. And I've been friends with their mother since we were both 9 years old. So, they're kind of like family. They basically are family, just not blood. And so if I have something that's passed down that will go to a girl, it would probably go to my friend's daughter. And if Ian had something, or if I had something a boy would appreciate, I'd give it to her son. I feel bad not having anything for him, but he's a minimalist. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't collect anything. His whole room is probably basically a bed and walls. So he'd probably say, please don't give me anything. And as far as passing down lessons or experiences like pizza, my dad didn't, he taught us how to broil food, and he was a really good dad. And I can't pass down his parenting style or his sense of responsibility or his just overall goodness. But again, my friend who I've known since I was 9 has always really liked the relationship I have with my dad. She's always liked the way my dad parented. And she's told me that she has incorporated some of his values into raising her own kids. And when confronted with certain situations with her own kids, she'll sometimes think about what my dad would do or how he handled it with my sister and me. And that means a lot. That really means a lot. I think that's incredible. So it's going somewhere. As for the rest of my stuff, even if it all goes to Goodwill or something like that, or Salvation Army, as long as somebody, the stuff I have because I love it. And all I really care, I think it's fun for someone else to enjoy something. So if I had something that no one in my family wanted, and even if it went to Goodwill, if somebody saw that thing on a Goodwill shelf and thought, oh, I love this, I would be thrilled.
See, I think that's better or more uplifting than giving it to a blood family member and it just sits in a box and deteriorates and then gets thrown out by accident 50 years later, right? Like, again, it comes down to we romanticize the thought of things being passed down when really there hasn't been that many generations of where things actually could be passed down, because like my great-grandparents had nothing and my grandparents were the first that actually started only on one side. On the other side, they had not a whole lot because they had 16 kids. So there was nothing to pass. I got a few dishes, but I mean, and maybe a ring that's like a $3 ring somewhere that my grandma wore. Like it's only recently that really, I guess maybe my specific family, that things are being able to be passed down. There's business that people want to pass down their family business, but business has changed. I mean, look at what's happening right now. I mean, who's to say you're going to have a business to pass down to a kid? And then there's the pressure to enjoy it. We always want to feel good. Everyone wants to feel good. They want to feel that, okay, I've created something to pass on and that brings me peace. When all you really want is peace. So it doesn't have to come from a specific thing or a specific outcome, because we don't know. Then there's the guilt on the other person receiving it to enjoy it at that level that the person who gave it to them enjoyed it. It's just like...
No, I totally agree with you. I think it's rude, actually, to expect someone to take on your business. I mean, whoever built that business did it because it was their interest. It was their passion. They loved it. And then they just expect someone else to have that exact same passion. And
exactly.
And also not enough passion to build it themselves, but to take over your secondhand. Yeah. I mean, that was your thing. You just, that's fine being yours. I'll go do my thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think that there's a lot, because I've heard stories like that of parents who build a business and then they put a lot of pressure on their kids to take over, like to be a part of the business and learn the business. And then when they retire or whatever, then the kid can continue. But I mean, if it's their passion, the kid's passion, then great. That's awesome. But if the kid doesn't like it, like why impose that? I used to have a boss, and he built a company from scratch, from nothing. The guy is super smart. And he has, I think it's 5 kids. Yeah, I think there are 5. I think he has 5 kids. And he's always said, like, I'm not leaving this to any of my kids. Like, they can do whatever they want with, like, I'll pay for college, university, or whatever. And then they can do whatever they want with their lives. But this is not for them. Like, I'm selling out right before I retire. And I'm not leaving them this because it's my business. It's not theirs. If they want to have one, they should start their own, and it's a very practical, like very pragmatic mentality thing. And I think it's cool because, I mean, he's not putting any pressure on them. And actually 2 of his children are actors, which has absolutely nothing to do with, this business being corporate thing that he has. They're like actors. And he's like, yeah, they're actors, they can do whatever. It's fine. So I think it's pretty cool.
Well, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, like they're neither of them are leaving their fortunes to their children. They've said this publicly, like Warren Buffett's, because it's like, oh my God. I mean, Warren Buffett's children are, they're in their 40s, 50s or more, and they have their foundations, which I do believe get something from them, but they've had to develop their own lives. And the Gates family has said that their children will not ever be desolate, but they're not leaving like the bulk of Microsoft stock that they own to their kids, because it's like, go out and do your own thing. They'll be more established than the majority of the world, assuming they do things, to keep it that way. But they're not being left the bulk of their family fortune. And I thought the whole purpose of younger generations is for them to go and explore the world and see what else is out there, right? So I just find it funny when new parents talk about all the things that, they want their kids to do, because they want their kids to enjoy the same things they do. And maybe they do until they're 5, and then they start going, wait a sec, I want to do this. I don't want to ride horses anymore. I want to go play hockey or whatever, right? And then it's like, oh, but when you were born, I told you you're going to do this. I have Instagram photos to prove it. That's this Instagram generation who are babies right now in 10, 15 years. I don't know what social media will be like then. It'll be interesting to see how that all comes back.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, it's funny how you see these are two of the richest men in the world, and they're so understated in every way. They're not flaunting their riches. They're not. You don't see them with the Gucci belts and the whatever suit, or no, whatever designer suit or whatever. They're just like regular Joes, basically. And I think, in the end, money is just a vehicle. Money is energies, things that make things move around you, basically. And I love what Bill Gates has done with his foundation, for example. And, the way that he's putting a lot of his actual funds into helping other people. I think we need more of that.
And we should be the ones to do it because we don't have kids. And as they say, if you don't have kids, you should probably do something else exceptional with your life to make up for the fact that you didn't have kids, or because you have so much free time that you should be using it to do something really good that equates to the goodness that is having kids.
Which we are by telling people you don't have to have kids. You can enjoy your life, invest your time and energy into yourself.
And to whatever. Having kids is great anyway. Why is that a great thing? People that
have kids say that. Actually, people who have kids who are not sure that they actually want kids say that. The people who are parents, who chose to be parents and are honest about the rigors of raising children, will say, yes, we love our kids, but if you don't want any, you don't have any. That's what I've found.
I think the idea that having kids is making a contribution is where it all, where the misconception begins. They think it, not they as in parents, but the people. Even a couple of years ago, there was a woman who was child-free and who wrote a blog post about the pressure she was feeling to do something wonderful with her life because she didn't have kids. So she felt like she had to make up for it somehow. But that implies that having a child, having a baby, reproducing is this wonderful thing that you could be doing, which kind of saves you from having to do anything else, apparently. And I think that's a strange idea, I guess.
Yeah, well, we all know that it has been very romanticized by pronatalism in our societies. We all know that. And I actually got into a discussion with somebody very close to me recently about this, because they were like, oh, but being a mom can be seen by some women as an achievement. And it's just like, oh God, no, it's a biological thing. Unless you had to go through 10 rounds of IVF or whatever, and it's something that has actually been very difficult and costly. And I'm talking out of my ass. I cannot relate to this because I have never been through it. I don't know anybody who has been through it. I don't understand how difficult or, heavy that is on anyone. But if you just had sex and got pregnant, that is just basic biology, to me. An achievement in that sense would be, raising your kid with good values, for example, being a good parent, because some parents out there are not good parents or shitty parents. We all know about that as well. So I think it's just prenatalism romanticizing, saying, that, oh yes, having kids in itself is a great achievement. And like, if you had kids, then, be happy that you made something good with your life. But to your question, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my phone because I'm trying to find here something that I posted recently. I'll look for it later. It's something that says, I hope, it's something I found, like this quote, I can't remember who said it. And it says something like, I hope you understand you don't have to do something wonderful with your life or something big with your life, something of that sort. And that goes for everything. Like, I think that it is true that I haven't felt that pressure. I don't think I have felt that pressure. The fact that I'm not having children, then I'm supposed to do something huge with my life, become this, big star or rich or whatever it is. Some people have felt it, but in the end, I agree with the author of, the article that you mentioned, because I think I also read it. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you can just, live your life under your own terms, whatever that is. It doesn't mean that because you don't have children, then you have to prove to society that you're worthy in some other way. You know what I mean? That's really hypocritical, to be honest, from people. Because I think people are hypocrites saying, oh, because you don't have a child, then you have to prove yourself in a different way. Like, who are you? Why is it that you think that I have to do something to prove myself to you or anybody else? So whatever it is that makes you happy, even if it's just sitting down on your couch all day and doing nothing, and do it.
I was looking up, trying to find a quote from Maya Angelou, because I remember listening to an interview that Oprah did with her while Maya was still alive, and it was to the effect that, nobody knows what their legacy is going to be, for one. You can think it's going to be something, but until you die, you don't know. But it came down to the effect you have on other people and how you make them feel. And if you make them feel good, and it could be one person, it could be a million people. Look at the legacy of Hitler, for example. He didn't have kids. So, I'm not saying that that's the legacy that we want to leave.
No, we're getting there. This is great.
It's like bringing in the whole slavery, conversation we had in our last episode. But basically, okay, so my biggest thing is, hey, if I made something, created something, did something, whatever, that made somebody else feel good. And actually, for some reason, just thinking about teaching, back in my teaching days, I remember, because at the time I thought I was going to do was be a violin teacher, but I remember when a kid, when one of my students was able to play their favorite song on the violin, and how happy that made them. And I'm still in touch with a lot of my students, and I haven't taught since 2008. So I did that for 10 years, and now I've seen them all growing up and they're doing their thing, and some of them are quarantined in Spain right now because they're teachers over there. And I check in and see how everybody's doing. But when I was a kid, I had great music teachers. And I remember meeting a lot of other kids that hated their music teachers. And I knew that I wanted to be a music teacher, but I wanted to be one that made the student feel good. I wanted them to enjoy their music lesson experience. And that was my only goal, was to make another kid have a really good music lesson experience. So regardless of what kind of teacher I was, regardless of if they ever played the violin past the age of 16, I just wanted them to look back on their childhood and go, yeah, I played the violin, I took lessons, and I really liked my time, whether they still play or not. That was my only thing. And I feel confident that I was able to deliver that to the majority of the kids because I only took kids that wanted to play. But that makes me feel good, even though I don't even play myself now. But I know that somewhere along the line, someone will look back at their childhood, remember the violin, and know they enjoyed that experience. And for me, what's wrong with having that as a legacy, as someone who's not having kids? Doing something that made somebody else feel good, and you may never know to what extent, but that possibility still makes me feel really good.
Well, and having kids isn't really a legacy, is it? I mean, it depends on how I don't know. There's some meme or something I saw somewhere that was poking fun at this idea of you're not anyone until you're a parent. Having kids makes you valuable or something. And then the question was, okay, what's Shakespeare's mom's name? So you could argue, well, she gave birth to Shakespeare, so like he's totally her legacy, but we don't know who she is. I don't know. I think it's really, really easy to say that having kids is your legacy, because all you have to do is, depending on how you do it, is lay down and pump on out, That's not, there's so little effort in that. You don't even have to do it well. You can be the worst parent ever and still be like, yep, got my seed out there.
I think it's more about the 18 years it takes to raise the kids and beyond, in some cases, that's where they're getting their legacy idea from. Like, okay, having a kid and keeping it alive till that point. And then if the child grows up to become a productive member of society in whatever way that pleases the parent, like, that could be their legacy. I don't know. Like, for me, I just, because I've always had so many other ideas in my head, and I've always had bigger dreams, some that have come true, some that are still in development. Like, so for me, I can't look at that and go, oh yeah, congratulations. I mean, I feel nothing about that. I don't believe that everyone is going to achieve something that becomes public and big. Obviously, it seems to be a select few that do that, and those are the ones that I look up to. But I don't look down on anyone that hasn't achieved that. I think now I did when I was 20. Now I'm in my later 30s, and I have a bigger perspective of life that's still developing.
You overcame snobbery.
Well, I didn't realize it wasn't even that. It's just I didn't resonate with anybody around me. I've always kind of been a big dreamer, feeling like I was the only person in my part of the world that dreamed big, because I wasn't around a lot of other people. So it wasn't intentional. It just I wasn't paying attention to anybody else, really. And where was I going with this? Okay. Happiness, or not, because happiness comes and goes, but I want people to feel alive in themselves, and whatever they're doing, whether it's a big public thing or not, as long as they feel I'm doing everything I get to do, that to me is big and successful. And whether you have kids are involved in your life or not, I think that is the goal to work towards, whether it's a big public thing or not, doesn't matter. So how do you pass that on as a legacy? Because I think that is a legacy, to inspire that in somebody else. That is a legacy to have, because that is going to change the world. That is going to affect more people. It's like an invisible infection, because you don't know how your own happiness affects somebody else, right? Infects somebody else. That's the virus we need to be spreading around here.
Positive.
This is going on like a really positive spin tangent right now, but this is where my passion comes out. So I'm like that. I just see too many miserable people who are following the marriage, mortgage, child thing, and they're still not alive. Yeah. And you can't tell me that, okay, you're passing that energy on to your children, because they're seeing what's going on behind the scenes. I don't care what you post on social media, so that's not the legacy to pass on. It's really about like what the aliveness, the inspiration that comes out, and feel good, whatever it is you're doing, whether you have kids or not, whether you are in a public position or not. Like that's that feeling of inner aliveness and happiness. I mean, that's the legacy to pass on in whatever form you can. Yeah. That just sounds more fun to me. Really, it feels more fun than following status quo, saying it's going to give you joy when you use your birth canal, like whatever.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something really important that I want to bring back, and it is that you never know how you're going to impact people around you. Like you never, unless they like tell you up front, like you did this and that touched me in such a this or so way, and it inspired me to do this or whatever. Unless they say that to you, it's you're not going to know how many people in all you're going to inspire, how many people you're going to help in some way. And that is also something that I feel that we need to think about. I really think that there is so much that we're giving of ourselves, that we're putting of ourselves out there, that we don't realize it, that we're making this world a little bit better. We're just putting like it's a little grain of sand, but it counts. And that is also part of, the legacy that we're leaving behind, like you mentioned, LeNora.
I don't think it even matters if you impact more than one person, because I think there are so few people in a lifetime who impact you in a memorable and positive way, that if it's even just a 5-second interaction where they make you feel good, you will remember. And if you have that effect on someone else, they will remember it. Even you, like LeNora said, like you said, you might not even know you're doing it. You might just smile at someone at the right moment and they'll never forget it. And just to clarify something earlier, I am not saying that every single person who has kids doesn't have a legacy. I do agree with what was said earlier, maybe by LeNora. I forget which one of you said it, something about doing a really good job raising a child, raising a really good person, and feeling good about having done that, about having created what you're pretty sure is a quality human being who's going to be kind to other people, who's going to help make things fairer or more just for other people. I think that definitely, I totally agree that there are times when you do feel probably very personally, this is a good legacy. This is my legacy. I did this. I made this valuable human being. So I just want to clarify that so I didn't sound like a total asshole saying nobody's doing anything good by having kids. They all suck.
You would never say that, Kristen. I know that.
I never would. Next, just for fun, maybe we could recommend, like each of us could either recommend a book or a movie or an album or any kind of entertainment that you think would be enjoyed by someone who's child-free, or even something that something that's the anti-Big Bang Theory finale.
Oh,
I finally saw it the other night. I didn't watch the whole thing because it got to the part. I was just watching something before going to bed, and I saw that it was Big Bang Theory. And it just happened to be the 5 minutes of the show where Leonard and Penny are kind of talking about how, when are we going to tell them, and something about pregnancy. And I was like, ugh, and I went to murder, like Dateline or something.
No, it's worth watching the whole thing, because it's just so stupid. Even the part where she's throwing up in the hotel room, and then it's like, oh, well, I didn't want kids, and now I do. It was just that. I mean, really, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. Sorry to spoil it for anybody, but 10 thumbs down. It's just so stupid. I mean, it's just so stupid. Great for the character. It's great for the characters that, okay, it all wrapped up lovey-dovey. But as someone who's concerned about the propaganda in society.
Can't it wrap up equally lovey-dovey with them going off to have a blissful life without kids, though?
Yeah, I think it was just sloppy writing, to be honest.
Yeah. Like the last season of Game of Thrones. Totally. At least.
Oh, that was terrible.
At least Sansa did not. Okay, I won't spoil anything, but Sansa did not end up pregnant. That's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
anyway,
with the recommendations,
I
want to start because this is something that happened to me this morning. Actually, I was having a conversation. I was watching a movie with someone, and it was I can't remember. We were talking about. I mean, the movie had a lot of life and death kind of underlying theme, basically. Not the actual people dying, but it was more thinking about it from a philosophical point of view, I guess. And I realized, because the person that I was with said, I'm not scared of dying. I'm just really scared of being old, basically. I'm not dying, fine. Old, fuck, And I realized that I feel exactly the same way. But then I thought, wait, I've watched Grace and Frankie. So I don't know if you guys have watched it or anybody.
I just finished. I binged the whole thing like over the last couple of months.
I haven't seen it.
Love it. Okay, so it's I completely recommend it, not only for, of course, LeNora, who hasn't watched it, but also the audience for listening to us.
And LeNora loves old people, so I think she'll like it.
I do love old people. I'm so sad I can't talk to old people right now because it's too dangerous.
Yeah. So Grace and Frankie, this is my recommendation for 2 reasons. One of them is because it's a feel-good sitcom about old people. So
with swearing.
The swearing.
It's no Golden Girls.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's really fun. I really like the characters that are portrayed by I can't remember the names of the actresses right now because I just
Lily Tomlin and
Jane Fonda.
Yeah, Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. There you go, exactly.
And Martin Sheen and Sam Waterston are their ex-husbands. They're gay ex-husbands.
But I really like the way that, they're portraying old age as something that is it actually feels like a lot of fun. And it's like, oh, you don't have to like stop living your life just because you're old, basically. That's like the whole thing that strings together the show, even though they're not child-free. That's, I have to clarify. They will have children. But there is a character, Brianna, and she is child-free. And she's fucking hilarious. So she's like my spirit animal. She's just, she's one of the most relatable and like funnier child-free characters I've ever seen in any show. So for 2 reasons, old people having fun and child-free Brianna.
My recommendation even comes as a surprise to me because it is so out of left field. But this winter, I've discovered Star Trek: The Next Generation and have binge watched the entire show. And oh my god, it is so amazing! Like just because I'm not into science fiction and none of that. But Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart's character, is child-free. Felt that children would get in the way of his career, but that's not the reason why I like the show. What I discovered is that there's many. It's quite a deep show, actually, and it talks so much about life and the right to creating life, and it does make you laugh at certain instances with children, and he finds himself in situations where he has to deal with children of different ages, and it's just it poses a lot of questions about life in general. So whether you're an antinatalist, whether you're a pronatalist, whether you're child-free or whatever, it's just, and again, like I am not a science fiction person. I was always like, oh, it's boring, blah, blah, blah. And then I just kind of stumbled onto it. It was like, wow, okay, this is quite deep, and it really asks a lot of questions. And I think it's a great show for child-free people because a lot of times it actually really solidifies your decision, and it kind of it sides, it kind of errs on the side of it's okay not to procreate because you see characters that don't have kids, that choose not to have kids, and you see, but they're exploring life, they're interested. That's the thing, because it's about exploring beyond what we know in the year 24 or something. So, and humanity's is fine, really. So it's actually quite an uplifting show. Like most episodes wrap up nicely, and it's kind of pretty because they have everything they want, and it gives me a kind of odd glamour that I never thought I would get from Star Trek. But that particular show is, but it poses a lot of really interesting questions that, as someone who thinks, why are people wanting to procreate? It says a lot. Like it's just for your satisfaction. Like there's an android character who wants to experience creating life because he's like, well, humans get to do it, why can't I get to do it? And then the captain's like, well, what gives you the right to bring life into this? Like, it asks questions like that. I'm like, oh my god! Like when I saw that episode first, which was like episode or season, like a later season, and that was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this show. And then it just spiraled into, I love this show. It's before my time, but I love this show. Plus, I didn't grow up with a TV, so I'm really behind on TV. But I highly recommend it. It's just, even if you're not into science, I'm like the last person who's interested in science fiction. So, but I really recommend this show.
One movie I have always loved is an older one, and it's from 1999. And it stars Rachel Griffiths of Muriel's Wedding fame, and she was on
6 Feet Under.
6 Feet Under. It's called Me, Myself, I loved this movie the first time I saw it because it was one of those switching lifestyles things. Almost, I don't know if you've seen Family Man with Nicolas Cage, but he experiences something on Christmas, like a magic character who allows him to experience an entirely different life with like a wife and kids and all this stuff. It's like that in a way, but starring a woman. And when you're watching something like that, typically you're really afraid, as someone who doesn't want kids, you're afraid of how it's going to end. Like, oh, I know exactly where this movie is going. I know exactly what it's going to tell me, but it doesn't, which is why you should watch it. That is all for this episode of Childfree Girls. We hope you have enjoyed watching and or listening. We are on social media if you want to find us on Facebook, Instagram, primarily Facebook and Instagram, but we're also on Pinterest and Twitter, mostly. You can email us if you want to get in touch at childfreegirls@gmail.com. And anywhere you look for us online too, it's at childfreegirls. We welcome and encourage your emails and messages, questions, complaints, anything you really, really wish we would talk about. Yeah. Just reach out and say hi. Also, don't forget, if you have any comments on this, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you have any comments, leave them down below in the comment section. This is our first time, as I mentioned earlier, being on as a podcast. So wherever one comments on a podcast, do that there. Maybe Isabel can help with that, or maybe we'll just cut this part out because it's stupid.
Well, there are comment sessions for a podcast.
Okay.
Sections. Yep.
And now a question for you is, what would you recommend for people who are looking for something that's not your typical pro-family, pro-wifedom material? What do you like to read? What do you like to watch? What do you like to listen to? What do you recommend? Leave it below. Recommend it below.